Hi, Colin. I'm so sorry for the delay.
Okay, no problem. I,
Yeah, there's been a shit ton of of developments regarding trans issues in Quebec just in the last 24 hours. We already have three breaking news articles on the matter, like three breaking news events.
okay. Yeah, I understand. No
Yeah,
worries.
so I'm very much working on like rapid mode and like the government here is saying like they want to create like a committee of wise people regarding gender identity issues. So it doesn't sound as bad as in some other provinces, but
Okay.
still.
So is that um the one you're talking about there is in Quebec? The-
Yeah, it's regarding provincial issues because like there's been a shit ton of controversy. One school implementing gender neutral bathrooms, another one allowing a teacher to use mix as title, and amongst a few other things. So
Okay.
it's quite a frightening situation, I'll be honest.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really happy that you're taking the time out to talk to me. Um so I mean, I I've just got a bunch of notes here and I'll throw together questions from what you said and or are saying, but we'll jump right into it. So first, introduce yourself and let listeners know who you are. What trans trans feminist trans feminine jurist is, for one thing. That's
Yeah.
um
So I'll do so now. So I'm Celeste Trianon, shorty pronouns. I'm a trans feminine jurist. So trans feminine as one, trans feminine as in I am trans feminine, and jurist as in I do a lot of things related to law, notably running legal clinic for helping trans people access name and gender market changes, amongst other things, for access to justice. So that is my specialty. Apart from that, I'm also a trans activist, doing a lot for the local community here, notably regarding drag defense and defending the community from rising anti-trans hate.
okay. Um, okay, we'll start with some of your focus in Quebec. For people like the resources you offer, like for people who are trying to get their gender marker changed. Quebec's a little bit unique with some of
Mhm.
its rules. Could you uh just talk about that side of it?
Yeah, so regarding Quebec's rules for changing names and gender markers, we've reached sort of this ironic equilibrium as of the last year or so. So we've always had a system in which it's difficult to obtain name changes, and usually, by default, the reason you can obtain a name change is only if you have used it for 5 continuous years and you have evidence supporting that. So it's very much not a procedure that's accessible to almost anyone. Nowadays, there's other reasons for which name changes are readily accepted, including psychological reasons, having a name that people can make fun of, as well as gender identity reasons. So because of this, and because of the fact that you can change your first name with your gender marker now, it we've reached a point where it's ironically easier for a trans person to get a trans person who's born in Quebec and an adult to obtain name change than someone who just wishes to change their name for discretionary reasons. So of course it's gonna play like that. But apart from that, there's also struggles, especially pertaining to trans migrants and trans youth who all have to jump through additional hoops in order to be recognized as who they are.
Okay. So, and you do clinics to help people learn learn the ins and outs of what they need to do to get there.
I actually directly help them. So I guide them through the application process in real time, which allows them to play an active role with doing it while making sure all the steps which otherwise might be gatekeepers can be resolved on the spot. So it allows folks to fill out their forms almost just in one day, has made which is a huge improvement over what the government offers usually.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the what's happening in Canada and several provinces across Canada, but also now at the federal level, kind of with the announcements that the Conservative Party made recently at their big meeting last weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, really, a few years ago, Canada was being lauded as a pretty progressive place for 2S LGBTQIA people, and now it's there, the rights are under attack as much as any other country, it seems, right now. I mean, there's some that are far more extreme, but we're seeing it creeping across our nation. So I just like to get you to start by talking about how you feel about the recent sort of backsliding that's been happening here.
So I definitely say it's been extremely rapid, as in anti-trans hate has never taken up such a big spot in Canadian politics, media, and even the public sphere until this year. It's never been as bad until now. So it is very scary that just from January onwards, we've had 2 Canadian provinces introduce anti-trans policies, with 2 others intending to. Got a bunch of other jurisdictions trying to bow down to quote unquote territorial rights or otherwise, disregarding the intent of the Canadian Charter and going to appeal to popularity, appeal to a group that very much is still being targeted ad nauseam by far-right actors. We're getting close to like what was the origins of the anti-trans movement in the US in like 2021, 2022. So that when the seeds were being planted until it exploded this year. So we're very much seeing the same thing happening here. And that it's not just at the governmental level, but also at a civil society level. For example, sorry, my brain's just thinking.
Yep,
I'd say okay. This year with anti-drag protests, with anti-trans protests being organized everywhere, it's reached what I'd argue is a critical point. In about a week, there's going to be protests in 77 Canadian cities against gender identity, synchronized at the same time. It's practically becoming a new terrorist movement in Canada, a form of domestic terrorism. I know these are strong words, but these groups are very much inciting what could eventually end up being killings, the same way someone attempted to kill 3 people at Waterloo just a few months ago. I'm afraid it's only a beginning of what's to come.
Yeah. I live right down the, like, 30 minutes away from the University of Waterloo. That was pretty horrible when that and scary. Like my son is trans, so it's very very close to home here. So
Indeed.
in your Torstar opinion piece, you were mentioned that we have to be proactive and have some proactive action to stop the spread of hate here. Can you kind of guide me through what some of your ideas are that we could use to do that?
I'd say there's a lot that can be done at a civil society level, at the provincial level, at the federal governmental level. There's a lot which can be done everywhere. And just to begin with the federal level, I know that Justin Trudeau has always tried to display himself as an ally of trans and non-binary communities, but I'll be honest, the Liberals could be doing way more, not just funding community organizations, not just providing extra resources or writing token letters of support here and there, but actually intervening as a proper governmental actor to oppose anti-trans hate, because they still are in power, and they're going to be in power most likely for the next 2 years. So there still is time for them to do catch up, to send a message that hate is not welcome here, whether it's through campaigning or through through funding campaigns specifically targeting anti-trans hate, or could even be equipping organizations with resources specifically for this. There's a lot of different approaches that can be taken. It can even be under the form of protective legislation, for example, making sure that trans people are even more protected within the Canadian legal paradigm. Our current hate laws in Canada are completely ineffective against these forms of domestic hate, and truly takes venomous acts get arrested for hate. So there needs to be much more that's done. What's being done right now, it's not enough, and I'd say that is the biggest thing. There needs to be more action taken. At the provincial level, it's the same thing. There are schools, etc., places where trans people, especially trans youth, need extra protection. Ultimately, we just want to give them an equitable chance at making it into adulthood and eventually into elderhood. So for them, it can be just having inclusive facilities. It can be eliminating hate at a more local level, say with schools, at the provincial government level, with businesses, etc. It could be even just mandating gender-neutral bathrooms inside new buildings, similar to the 88 Act in the States, how it's been used to make buildings more accessible for non-able-bodied persons. It can be so many different ways to make sure trans people feel included. But what's needed right now is leadership, not the type of appeal to popularity that you have certain provincial premiers, such as Pigs and I forgot who's like leading Saskatchewan right now, but very much so that they can actually engage with the principles behind the Canadian Charter and do things to make sure everyone has this equitable chance rather than just letting it fly by. At the civil society level, exterminating hate at every single level, it begins with your family members, your friends, at the grassroots level. And so many people, they might not understand what transness means. And that's normal. It's okay to not understand what being trans is like. What's not okay, though, is to openly attack them, to openly defame their very existence and question their very existence by trying to basically use newspeak to reduce trans people's existence to some sort of fictitious ideology, or otherwise call gender affirming surgeries, other such procedures as a form of child mutilation. These are all terms that have been used by the far right specifically to demonize trans people and their allies. So there needs to be more that's done to make sure we don't end up having to deal with this. It's such a major issue.
You went into the civil level and the grassroots level, because I was going to ask too, just more specifically, because I'm someone who always says, I'm an ally, or like I support 2S LGBTQIA, the whole community. But I maybe want you, I always feel that instead of just saying that, we could be doing so much more. And maybe I think you already did say some of the things we could be doing, like right at a grassroots level ourselves. But do you want to kind of emphasize that?
Yeah. there can be so much that's done. Like just trying to address anti-trans hate with family members, etc. That already can make a difference. If everyone was able to do so, it very much sent a message that this form of hate is not acceptable, and it helped make Canadian society more inclusive again. There's also so many other things that can be done, such as, for example, volunteering with trans and queer collectives or organizations, donating to them. You can also participate at protests and counter protests. For example, there's a bunch of counter protests being organized around the country regarding the 1 million march happening next week. So you can always intervene during such occasions to defend the community. It can be drag defenders, it can be so many other things. There's really not just one way to go about this. And I want to emphasize that there's no one key way to be an ally. What regroups everyone who can fall under this ally umbrella is that they're actively committed to eliminating anti-choice LGBTQIA plus hate and anti-trans hate in particular. And this commitment can go by many different ways.
Especially for younger people. We've seen the suicidal ideations that come with gender dysphoria, but we've also seen that gender affirming care works. It lowers the attacks on gender affirming care and seem to me to be I don't know, it's a way of saying we don't care about your mental health. We realize that it makes you better. It's proven that this kind of care improves people's lives, but that doesn't trump, I think you said that somewhere, it doesn't trump our beliefs, is what they're saying. Our beliefs are more important than your lives.
That is their ideology at its very essence, is this form of superiority and their desire to reshape society in their vision, which corresponds with this Victorian era vision of separate spheres of gender being artificially binarified into male and female, and pushing women out of the public space, eliminating anyone who does not conform with gender norms, gender roles, or even just the gender modality they expect, and making sure only cisgender heterosexual men get to even live public lives.
Okay. Yeah.
It is frightening how much things can roll back over time.
Yeah. And we're definitely seeing people trying to do that right now. But I just want to give you the opportunity, if there's anything we didn't talk about here that you'd like to get out to people. Do you want to? Is there?
Yeah. So I'd say there's one thing you can mention right now. It's the fact that it's been getting so much worse in the last few months. If you have not noticed how much anti-trans hate is circulating, you can just look at how many articles about trans people have been published in the news just in the last few months. I think that is a good sign of what's to come. And not acting makes you an accomplice. Voting for the Conservative Party, when voting for parties which explicitly choose to oppose trans people's very existence is part of your platform, that is also, if you do that, you're complicit. I'll just say it. Sorry, my throat is very much not in good shape right now. But by not doing anything or by actively voting against trans people's very interest to live, it's going to hurt people. And I want people to be reminded that want to vote regardless of what your economic beliefs are, or regardless of what your other beliefs are, you can voting to remove an entire group of people's very humanity is never in any circumstance acceptable.
All right. And you mentioned something right in there that I always see people who don't necessarily agree with the conservatives on social issues voting for them because of financial issues. And yeah, that's not such a good thing when you really look at how much hate can be in their stands on social issues.
Absolutely. If you want to vote for your best interest, then at least remember human rights considerations should always come first. Economic ones second. Because what's the point of money if you're gonna be dead anyways?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a scary thought right there, but
Yeah.
it's true. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. And yeah,
Take good care.
you too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.